In this video, I'm going to explain what I mean by that cryptic statement of I can only blame myself in the context of what I did at work today, as well as describe a bunch of other things. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Duncan Alderdice, and the reason I'm making these videos is to document the journey I take as I become who I am by making small improvements to my life every single day. So the job I have is currently working as a salesperson and an account executive for a company. It's a remote job, doing pretty good at it. Now, today I had 8 meetings. 8 meetings. That rarely happens. And of those 8 meetings, 100% of them either did not show up or needed to reschedule. And I found that extremely frustrating, very frustrating. There was a guy who actually the first call of the day, there's a guy who rescheduled 4 times, who when I actually got him on the call, he forgot who I was, didn't know my name, needed a refresher of what it was that we were doing, was at the gym, so clearly hadn't been prioritizing it, and then said he was going like, okay, well, I'll reach back out, and I was going like, okay, what has changed? Because he seemed super excited about this last Monday of last week, and he was like, yeah, well, something happened yesterday he didn't want to get into, so I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But it was just like, that was one that I was really banking on. Then the one that came after that, they just didn't pick up. It was weird though, because their phone wasn't ringing. So I called like a bunch of times. Later on, they actually had an emergency, went to the hospital, so that was fine, but frustrating in the moment. And then the other one that was at 11 o'clock, I thought was going to close for sure, because that's what they said was going to happen last Friday. And they said, oh, I'm not playing around, we just need to check some things. Which really meant that they didn't have money for it, and they sent a text going like, hey, something came up, we're gonna need to reschedule. And so I sent a text back being like, okay, cool, when would you like to reschedule to? Like I said, like, are you still curious about giving us a try, or would you like to abandon the conversation altogether? Called him 2 other times, just like as soon as he sent that text. 0 reply to the text, 0 reply to the calls, sent just a text with his name going like, hello. Nothing. Then there was a reschedule that was at 12 o'clock. Then there was another one that was at 2:30 that then had to reschedule. This was a person that was like it was like a legitimate problem with pricing, that they were sold on the program but then didn't have the money. I went with the lowest package, they didn't have it. And then hold on, let me just see what else did we have. Then there was another follow-up that was supposed to be at 3:15. That was a reschedule from one on Wednesday that missed. He said he'd be available, did not pick up. Then the 4 o'clock that was excited because at 12 o'clock he said that he was good to go, like 30 minutes before I said needed to reschedule. And then finally we had one at 5 o'clock, which of course did not pick up on the first dial, called back and said, I have something come up, we're gonna have to cut this call short to 15 minutes. And I was like, no problem, let's reschedule, because it's never closed within 15 minutes. And we actually wanna have the time to dedicate to it. Now, I was really frustrated with that, because this was supposed to be a good day, and I was hoping that going into the last week, I would have at least gotten maybe 75% of the way. Like if I had closed 3 advisors this week, that would have been cool. But instead it was 0. And I'm only halfway, and the revenue that I've generated isn't enough, so I really need to focus on the number of advisors. But so when I say I can only blame myself, what I mean by that is the reason it's frustrating is because each one of them actually means something. And up until this point, I haven't been doing as much activity as I have in previous months. Yes, I've been doing LinkedIn a lot, and that's been working, but I haven't been making the dials. Today I made 115 dials, felt great, booked a demo, so that was cool. But it just is, had I been more active elsewhere, I likely would have held more demos up until this point, and then could be at a position where a day like this is just something that happens and not something that I'm going to lose any sweat over. Yes, they're reschedules, but it just isn't. It's frustrating when the conversation isn't prioritized. But so what I'm going to learn from this and take away is, if I get lazy, I will get stung. So it's like, okay, if I want to not be frustrated by people who need to reschedule or not show up, then I need to book enough meetings for myself such that the value of each particular meeting isn't large enough to really be anything. It diminishes the value of each particular meeting. So when someone doesn't show up, it's like, okay, whatever. Like there's plenty more to go around, rather than actually banking on that. But yeah, so lesson learned. I might not hit quota this month, which will be frustrating, but I think it's a lesson that I need to learn. And maybe I do, maybe I don't, we'll see. I'm certainly going to try to, but I think it's just more I want to avoid being in a position in the future where going into the last week, I really need to turn on the jets and really need to close, and much prefer being in a position where it's like I can approach it a bit more relaxed. So that's that. It was incredible. I've never had a day where I've had 8 meetings booked and none of them hold. Well, technically one of them did. Okay, I should put like one follow-up held. I didn't put that. And like again, like there's legitimate, like I'm not angry, or like if there's like a legitimate reason as to why someone cannot do it, like that's fine. I think it's more just the open-endedness, as well as just I need to reschedule but no communication after that. Like, what the fuck? Just tell me no. Tell me no. Why haven't you said no? Just give me an answer. Other things that occurred was the fact that, I've got a new subscriber. So that's cool. Imseti, thanks for subscribing. Appreciate that. Actually, it was 6 days ago that you subscribed. So technically this is a week late. Sorry about that. But hopefully now I hope you're doing well. Other things that happened is I actually signed up myself for a coaching thing. Like purchased that subscription today. It was cool because it was actually with a salesperson, and it was a sales call. It was fun to like be on the other end of it, and very interesting because the scripting, the content of it was different, but the overall structure was the same. Like just a bit of rapport, then a quick intro, set the agenda, ask a bucket question, then a bunch more questions, then get into the pitch, give the opportunity for that, then present pricing. So that was that. It was interesting though because I had already made my decision before actually booking the call. Like I was going to move forward. I just didn't want to sign up on a website. I'd rather talk to an actual person to actually move forward with that. And what was interesting is like I like whenever the guy was talking or like doing like pitch, like explaining the program, I tuned out, even though I was interested. Like it just lasted a bit too long. And not like what it just taught me was going like, okay, so when I'm on a call with somebody, if I go on a bit too long of a diatribe, just kind of explaining all about the program, all the benefits and features and all these great things, they're probably not really that engaged. And why I can say that comfortably is because I was engaged. Like I'm the highest intent person that you could have, and I wasn't really paying attention when on that. When I was paying attention is when he asked me questions, and then I had to think about it. And like I had to like formulate a decent response, but I felt like I was a participant in the conversation. So it was cool to be on the other end of things, because then I'm not going to change the whole fundamental structure of the calls that I'm taking, but I am going to try to find a way to, when I do the pitch, maybe like less is more, ask more questions, make sure the person's involved. So it doesn't like at one point I need to explain what's involved in the program. I need to do that part. But if I could break those into a bit of chunks, like maybe just do a bit of check-in, going like, does that make sense? Like keep the person involved in the conversation. That would be cool. As well as what I found interesting was at the beginning of it, like I said, like I was in sales and that like I knew this was a sales call kind of thing. And then the guy like tried to like underplay it, was going like, oh, well, it's not like so much a sales call kind of thing. Like, yes, I do have like my goal is to get you on the program, but it's like it's not 100% that. And I found that interesting because I was going, and it might just be the way that I think. Maybe that works better with other people, but I thought going like, no, fucking own it. It is a sales call. That's what this is. Like, it is a sales call. It is a conversation. Is it an effective conversation to diagnose whether or not I do or do not need this program, and for me to make this decision of whether I will or will not acquire this program in exchange for the funds? That was something. And then so I was going like, okay, so if I was going to have the same sort of thing, I would want to establish right from the beginning, it is a sales call. Even though it's like in that coaching kind of space, it's like no, just be upfront about it. Own it. Again, perhaps the brand that they were trying to go with, it's a different approach, entirely up to them. It's just the thing that I thought. As well as there was a question that they asked, which was like, what's your budget on this? And I thought it was an interesting question because it seems like a good question, like get an idea of like what the sort of price range, because if you have multiple packages, like which one actually feels better, and get the person to say their number first, I guess. But for me, getting that question, I had no fucking idea. I'm going, I don't know. I'm curious what sort of answers that was given. I had already looked at pricing, so I had picked which one that I wanted to get beforehand. But it was interesting just to be on the receiving end of it. Like, it was an open-ended question, but I felt it was too open-ended. And because it was too open-ended, it was an ineffective question. Again, like, I'm not trying to criticize the whole approach, but it just was more having the context of having held those sales meetings, being on the receiving end of it. Like, there's a different it sort of serves a dual purpose. But that was cool. But then what I found was interesting, because it is a coaching program, and I'm curious what other sort of coaching services do, what the actual value is for it, and what their approach is that all of the call wasn't a video call, it was a phone call, and the coaching call with the person will also be a phone call, not a video call. And then, so the reason I bring that up is I'm going okay, is that more valuable if it was a video call? Would someone prefer that? These ones are only a half hour. Would someone prefer it to be a longer sort of thing? Just different ways of differentiating myself from maybe a more established service in the space. What I did find funny is at the beginning, it was going we're the #1 coaching service for something, and I'm going that's something I'm not going to do. I'm never going to say that I'm #1. And the reason is because there's no body or organization that goes let's look at all the coaching services. You get the award for the the #1 coaching service. Which actually makes me that doesn't happen. So it's just a self-proclaimed notion, and then everyone's going to say they're #1. So then the one thing I would want to make sure that it is different. I don't think the UK's most hated sales trainer takes a different route of going you're the most hated, but I don't know whether or not that is it's a strong brand, and it's kind of funny and it works with his personality, but I don't know whether that's the association or the brand I want with this, or as at least no, I guess that would just it would fall into the sort of values, if the values of lead rigorous authenticity and lead with the truth. We're the #1 coaching service. That just means we're proud and we want to do well. It doesn't mean you're #1. It means you're good, and you say that you're good, but it doesn't mean you're #1. And it feels off if I said it about the thing I'm trying to build, which is not to knock anyone who actually does use it. If it works for you, go fucking gung ho on it. But that, yeah. So that's kind of what I learned today. Also, in the morning, I had a meeting with Gigi about the brand board. I'm gonna talk more of that in a different video. Maybe just do a bit more on that. But that was a very useful conversation again, and a good exercise too, because I can looking at it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it now, but I want to talk more about it later. Looking at it, there's a clear feeling that it evokes, but it was just a good activity to actually have a sort of vision of where I'd like to go, but a vision that is articulated and documented, rather than it just be an idea that is continuously an amorphous idea that is constantly being formulated. Huge words. But yeah, so if I don't hit quota this month, that will suck, but lesson learned. And the lesson learned is a lesson that I didn't necessarily need to learn, but maybe I did need to learn it. Maybe it's a lesson that I knew I didn't need to learn, but did need to learn in order for me to know that I didn't need to learn it. I think that sentence completed, but I don't think it was the idea that I was trying to say. Hopefully you're understanding the gist of what it is that I'm going for right now. Feeling good though, in a good mood. With that said, Clementine Club, thanks for sticking around as always, and remember to believe in yourself, because you're more capable of doing great things than you give yourself credit. I'll talk to you later.